Greetings and welcome to the Republican Climate channel on YouTube. And in various video clips on this channel, I want to demonstrate how the Republican Party in its present form is contributing to a hostile sort of environment, intimidation, fear, and in this case I'm going to talk about divisiveness. As you can see from this hat, I'm either in Texas or pretending that I'm in Texas. Now, starting with the presidency of Barack Obama, the Republican Party has in many cases started claiming that the Democratic president isn't a real American. Some, like Sheriff Arpaio, actually denies the citizenship status of the President of the United States, and some of them, like Mitt Romney, are just joking about it, say, oh, nobody ever asked to see my birth certificate. Sununu claims that you have to be Republican in order to act like an American. He said, when is Barack Obama going to start acting like an American? Well, there was not such a spirit of spite against Bill Clinton, and yet he was further to the left than Barack Obama. So what's going on here? Well, it appears that at least Texas may seriously be considering secession from the Union. And let's consider some evidence for that. First, something that Rick Perry said, I believe it was in 1910. He pointed out that when the state of Texas entered the Union, there was a clause that allowed Texas the right to secede if they wanted to. No other state has that right. So Rick Perry pointed that out. For what reason, he didn't exactly say. And then, very recently, there was the judge in Lubbock, Texas, who basically predicted that if Barack Obama was reelected, there would be civil war, at least in Lubbock, Texas. Well, what about secession? Guess what? It's easier than you may think to secede from the Union, at least if you're Texas. And here's how it would happen. First, all the Governor Perry would have to do is to declare secession. And what would immediately happen, secondly, is that the moderates and the liberals would begin to leave Texas. They would all begin to leave at once. Therefore, their property values would plummet, and the conservatives would be able to buy up their property for cheap, but then the property values would rebound, and that would make the conservatives very, very rich. And thirdly, with that money, they would be able to buy weapons so as to be able to maintain their status as an independent nation. Now, another advantage, number 4, that Texas has is that they have an open coastline, and that would allow trade, including trade in oil, which would allow them to have a considerable income. They're not landlocked like some other conservative states. They actually have a coastline which would allow them contact with the rest of the world. The 5th thing is that they have largely, not completely, but largely an independent electrical grid, so that they could be cut off and still continue to have many of the services that they currently have. Now, there would be, number 6, there would be a problem with water supplies. Right now, Texas, or at least one county in Texas, is suing the state of Oklahoma under the Commerce Clause of the Constitution, insisting that they have the right to Oklahoma water for free. Of course, if they declare themselves an independent country, they would not be able to do that. So there could be a problem with Texas getting enough water, especially since they've had a drought in the last few years. Governor Perry called for a day of prayer, and as far as I'm aware, it didn't really work. They're still short on water. Now, would any other state secede? Oklahoma may secede too, since it's right next to Texas, but the only way it would do that is by merging with Texas and losing its independent identity. Now, there's another problem with secession that many states would face, and that is that for many of the conservative states, the so-called red states, they receive more money and federal services from the federal government than they pay in taxes. That is, many states that are red states receive more than they give. They are basically living on handouts from the federal government, funded mostly by the blue states such as New York and California. Okay, well that wouldn't be a problem with Texas, because according to the most recent figures I've seen, the dollar amount going into the federal government and coming back from the federal government is about $1 even. So Texas pretty much breaks even. So perhaps it is possible for Texas to secede. I'm not suggesting that they should do that, but it's not as hard as you might think. If you happen to think that that kind of problem, that kind of conflict could not arise in the history the upcoming history of the United States, think again. Thank you for listening to the Republican Climate Channel. Good night, and good luck.